Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, you can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
I see how it is. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. I'm coming in here. It's a great weekend of football. An absolutely wonderful Saturday and Sunday, except for, of course, every team I've ever cared about. But other than that, it's a great weekend of football. I'm ready to come in here. Hey, you guys want to talk a little the Cincy-Indianapolis game? It had a good barn burner down there. And or did you see the Titans and Dolphins went in like 7 hours? That was the one I was ready to put a couple hours of conversation into, really break down the X's and O's of that game. Or, of course, you had Bears-Packers last night. But I come in here all nice, ready to be cool, and that's how you want to introduce me. That's how you want to start off our Monday. Steven Cerruti run the show, Nuno riding shotgun. Spence filling in for Bubba today. Bubba can be nowhere found on the day after a pitiful, disturbingly bad performance from our own Dallas Cowboys. And yes, I'm aware. I've seen your tweets. I've heard your calls, 888-729-3776. I'm aware of my Super Bowl prediction. I'm not caught off guard today about the music I have to face. In fact, they're even talking on First Take, apparently, about banning me from the show. There's some talk. Stephen A., late last night I got an email. Will Cain shall not be allowed on First Take until the Dallas Cowboys win a game. This is not going to happen, first of all. Secondly, if I am banned until they win, it's probably a week-long ban. Let's be clear. Sunday night, next week, against the New York Giants, I'll be fine. What do you got, Spence?
I mean, it's just pathetic, but it's predictable. We're talking about the Cowboys with the most disgusting, nauseating fan base in the history of American sports. And they got Will Cain coming up here to represent them. And this is the same Will Cain who, by the way, I personally believe and am advocating that Will Cain be banned from this show. Banned from this show until the Cowboys win a game. Because we might not see it for the month of September.
I'll be back
we might
next
not
week.
see Will for the month of September.
I'll be back next week. If it's a ban, it's a short-lived ban. By the way, how'd those Giants look, Nuno?
Odell looked great.
No, that's right. By the way, while we're all sharing some pity party here together, we're all casting stones at each other. What's up with Garoppolo? How'd he look this weekend, Cerruti?
Scared, apparently.
All right. So we're just a sorry sack show. Just a bunch of losers here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. We're going to get to Cowboys. We're going to get to Cowboys-Panthers. We'll get to the Steelers and Browns, and we're going to get to the rise of the old men and Adrian Peterson and Tom Brady, but we have to start with where the NFL left off last night, and that's with one Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers left last night's game with what appeared to be a serious injury. He was carted off with one knee that looked absolutely immobile. But of course, like the Hollywood comeback story it usually is, but of course, in the way that we've all come to fear, anybody that doesn't root for the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers comes back out and engineers a fourth quarter 20-point deficit comeback to ensure that the Green Bay Packers beat the Chicago Bears. And Aaron, today, how bad is that injury that everyone's talking about?
We just finished up, and we haven't had lengthy conversations yet about it. But we'll do some tests tomorrow. Yeah, I felt like once I got back out there and the adrenaline was going, that it loosened up a little bit, but then, tightened up there in the fourth quarter. I was walking up and down the sideline to try and keep it loose. But no, we'll do tests tomorrow and give you a better answer on Wednesday when I talk. But as long as there's no major issues, and I'll keep playing.
Rodgers told NBC's Michelle Tafoya after the game that he would be playing next week against the Vikings. Listen, man, I'm scared of that dude. I'm not too proud to admit it. I think at times it's been perceived that I'm a critic of Aaron Rodgers because I've had some doubts about how much money you devote to the quarterback position, or because I happen to think he's second in the pecking order to Tom Brady. But the bottom line is, don't let that go down as somehow not believing in Aaron Rodgers or denying credit to Aaron Rodgers. I'm scared of that dude. I have the wounds to show it. I have the scars. I have the experience in the playoffs, no less, with my team going down to the darts that Aaron Rodgers throws. The Bears fans know, and this isn't the first, exactly what can go down. You got that buddy? You ever have that guy? I think I've talked about this before, but I've got one of these buddies. It doesn't matter what we're playing, whether it's bowling or darts. He's always walking up to his turn. He's always walking up to the line when it's his position and goes, I got this. I don't think he puts in any extra practice to darts than I do. I don't think he bowls more than me, but he's got this absurd level of confidence that is absolutely enabling. Man, that's Aaron Rodgers. Only he's that confident at a craft that he has practiced, a craft that he's perfected, a craft that he is an absolute maestro at. I mean, honestly, watching Aaron Rodgers play quarterback must have been what it looked like to see Michelangelo carve marble. Or I don't know, Picasso paint. Just in their zone. Nothing can distract them. And that 39-yard pass that seemed like it was a 125-yard pass to Geronimo Allison dropped right into his hands was just an absolute work of art. Not unlike Michelangelo or Picasso. He's calm, he's certain, he's confident, and he was 17 of 23 for 278 yards in the second half. And that's really the story of this game. A tale of two halves. Because in the first half, Khalil Mack was the artist. Khalil Mack was the dominating force. Let me read this to you of what Khalil Mack, newest Chicago Bear, did during the first half of that game. He had a pass deflection. He had a forced fumble. He had a fumble recovery. He had a quarterback hit. He had a sack. He had an interception. He had a touchdown. And he had 2 tackles. Khalil Mack was an absolute force in that game. But in the same way Aaron Rodgers didn't dominate the game in the first half, Khalil Mack did not dominate the game in the second half. He wasn't involved as much by design. The Bears didn't have him on the field, and when he was on the field, you could see him chasing Randall Cobb down on a 75-yard run, not rushing the passer. I don't know why the Bears didn't put more pressure on a hobbled Aaron Rodgers in the first half. I don't know why Kyle Fuller dropped the interception. And by the way, is it bad form to point out that as amazing Aaron Rodgers was, he did get away with a few things. That was an absolute dropped interception by Kyle Fuller that totally changes what we talk about today. Clay Matthews almost penalized that game away. with a hit on Mitch Trubisky that extended a drive that they ultimately couldn't capitalize on. But that's football. Inches, plays, moments. And at the end of the game, Aaron Rodgers is the one that won the most moments. He's an absolute artist. That's my opening take, brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care, keeping cars running newer, longer, whatever you drive a Firestone. Coming up, 888-SAY-ESPN. Come at me. I'm not jumping off the Cowboys weekend, their bandwagon after one weekend. No, not yet. Cowboys-Panthers, next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Did you know ADT can design and install a smart home just for you? A new smart home at your service, customized for your lifestyle. ADT can even close your garage door while you're at your kid's soccer practice to help keep criminals and critters on the sidelines. Now, that's what I call goal-keeping service. It's all controlled from the ADT app or the sound of your voice and backed by 24/7 protection. Visit ADT.com/smart to learn more about how ADT can help keep your home safe and smart.
So I thought I'd come in every Monday just magically celebrating what will be a wonderful ride through the 2018 NFL season for the Dallas Cowboys. But it stumbled out of the gates. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and ESPN News. I have been through all the highs and lows. I might be a manic depressive. I mean, tell you at times I've been absolutely ready to sell this team down the river. I have been absolutely ready to give up hope, tell you like it is, and start rooting for the Cleveland Browns. I have at other times.
The Cowboys are going to be terrible.
I got it, Spence. I got it, Booger. Because I don't need that today, man. I watched. I saw it. But then there's the other side of me. And the side of me that says, okay, it's one game. It's one game. Let's not freak out.
The Cowboys are going to be terrible.
It's still not over. The thing is, Booger, it's not done. It's a 16-game season. This is one of them. All right? I've been through it all. Been through the ringer. Highs, the lows, the ups, the downs. Let me tell you what I know. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Let's start with the positive. Let's be an optimist. Always see the glass half full here. It's the first game of the season. Okay, that's one. Second, the truth of the matter is the Carolina Panthers are good. They're very, very good at defense. That team, I will tell you by the end of the year, we're going to look back and say the Carolina Panthers are one of the best teams in the league, one of the best defenses in the league. And Luke Kuechly, I had him in my top 5 defenders. A few weeks ago, we put out a top 5 list of best defenders in the league. He's absolutely every bit of that. That guy can dominate a game from the linebacker position. Luke Kuechly is amazing. So when I look up and I see that Dak Prescott went 19 of 29 for 170 yards, yes, I am incredibly concerned. But I contextualize that just a bit by saying he just did that against what I think is going to be seen as one of the best defenses in the league. And on the other side of the equation, by the way, while we're at it, Cam Newton, let's compare these stat lines for just a moment. Dak Prescott, 19 of 29 for 170 yards. Cam Newton, 17 of 26 for 161 yards. There's only one of these quarterbacks we're freaking out about today. And I'm not telling you we're wrong. You should be freaking out about Dak Prescott. There are big-time concerns. But Cam Newton didn't exactly light it up against that Dallas defense. All of my predictions about the Dallas defense, outside of perhaps Randy Gregory's availability, which according to Adam Schefter might have had a relapse in August. And so, okay, we're not sure if Randy Gregory's going to be around.
If I recall, Friday, that was like number 2 on your list of why we should believe in the Cowboys was Randy Gregory.
Yeah, but that's because that was part of the reason the defense was going to be good.
Yeah.
And look at the defense. Did that Cowboys defense not look good?
Looked okay.
It looked good. I mean, look, what the Carolina Panthers defense did to Dak, the Cowboys defense did to Cam. But here's the thing. Can the Cowboys defense carry this team? That brings me off of my mountain of optimism.
Well, the Cowboys are going to be terrible.
To hearing what Booger said. By the way, Booger tweeted me yesterday. Booger was talking about defense when he told me that. He said they had nobody on defense. I was right about the defense. It was time to talk about the offense. The Dallas Cowboys, Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan are out here walking around with a flip phone talking, hey, check it out, everybody. Look what I got. It opens and closes. Everybody else a decade later has got an iPhone doing aerospace engineering on their phones, and the Cowboys are over here talking about how it fits in their pocket neatly. They're running a 2007 offense. They're telegraphing everything. You got Sean McVay in L.A., yes, Matt Nagy in Chicago. I was impressed last night, at least in the first half, with what Matt Nagy was doing with that Chicago offense. You got Andy Reid in Kansas City. You've got Doug Peterson. Listen to the credit I'm giving you, Eagles fans. Doug Peterson guiding Nick Foles to a Super Bowl. And how do they do that? Not because they have the best talent on the field. Alshon Jeffrey didn't even catch 1,000 yards last year. Don't sit here and tell me about the Cowboys' weapons. It's because those coaches don't know how to scheme anybody open. Every time I look up, the Los Angeles Rams receivers are running wide open. Jared Goff doesn't have to think. He didn't have to make any big reads. He looks up and he sees a receiver like Cooper Kupp with no one around him for 5 yards and thinks, I may hit him on the run. Meanwhile, Dak's back here, dropping back deep, holding the ball for 5 seconds, waiting for Allen Hurns to complete a 12-yard curl. I mean, we've got the curl mastered in Dallas. So does every defense coming at you. You might want to upgrade here. You might want to help Dak out. I am concerned about Dak, but I'm more concerned about a coaching staff that also, by the way, while we're at it, only lets Ezekiel Elliott touch the ball 15 times. 10 times through the third quarter. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry. You might want to give him a few more times. Or how about, hey, when you get the ball with 5 minutes left and you got a chance to tie the game, why don't you hand it to Zeke? Once. Once. The only time Zeke touched the ball on that final drive was on a swing pass. I'm terrified of the Dallas Cowboys offense, but it is week 1. Enrique from El Paso. What's up, Enrique?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'm trying to look at it, like you said, glass half full, but do you think this has anything to do with the offensive line as well? You know, they did make a couple good points that this team didn't even practice in pre-games. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. And I think I'll leave this off and I'll take your comments off the air that, remember, every year that we start off 0-1, we end up making a good playoff run. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Enrique. Appreciate your optimism. You make 2 good points. First of all, the Cowboys aren't alone in this respect, but I don't know who they are thinking they've got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Meaning this, that Dak doesn't have to play in the preseason. Also, by the way, Dak can hold the ball for 5 seconds, take deep drops, and just play schoolyard ball like Aaron Rodgers. You got to practice. You got to play in the preseason. Zeke didn't – what did Zeke have, like 2 runs in the preseason? Dak had very little. Man, this coaching staff is a joke. Quite honestly, it's a joke. And if the Dallas Cowboys do what I predicted, they're going to do it despite their coaching staff. What?
I just think, it sounds like you want them to be bad so that Jason Garrett is out of there, right? Isn't that the best thing for the future of the Cowboys?
I want them to win the Super Bowl and then go, you know what? By the way, this isn't crazy because it's been done once before. I want them to win the Super Bowl. I want Jerry Jones to go to the bar, have a scotch, and go, 1,000 different coaches could have coached that team to the Super Bowl, and replace him with Barry Switzer.
Let me ask you
That's what
question.
I want to happen.
I'm going to give you a hypothetical either or. You go 10-6, which I think is their ceiling, and you lose maybe in the wild card of the first round of the playoffs, and Garrett stays.
No,
or you go 6-10 and Garrett's out. You got to take the 6-10. If you think he's the problem,
you guys just want me to suffer through a 6-10 season.
No, because
I'm on your side. I'm not.
You're not on my side.
I'm not ready to panic.
No,
I think you're
is.
wrong, but I do not think that 1 week shows you the Cowboys are going to be terrible. I think you're crazy for thinking they're going to be in the Super Bowl, but I'm not ready to panic just yet and call you wrong. Okay, I'm on your side. Nuno, on the other hand, not so much.
Saquon Barkley broke 1 run.
Hey,
okay,
next week
well,
you guys,
run.
Exactly.
week 2, Cowboys Giants must win.
I feel confident. How do you feel? All right,
they're a 5.5 point underdog. What do you think? How do you think I feel?
That's so embarrassing. You're a 5.5 point underdog to a team that scored 8 points this week. You should be proud. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, Jeff Darlington was at Cowboys-Panthers yesterday, and I saw him taking all of Bears-Packers in. We'll talk to him next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80. And today, you can watch us talk on ESPNU. Now, I might be in a moment of self-reflection. I might be taking long looks in the mirror, wondering about my predictions, concerned about my Mondays. But for a sense of objectivity, I'd like to go game side. I'd like to go down to the sidelines. Carolina, Dallas, yesterday was ESPN NFL insider and reporter Jeff Darlington on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Jeff, do you think yesterday when you were watching that game in Carolina, were you watching two bad offenses or were you watching two really good defenses?
Good question. That's a good question, Will. You know what? Like, going into the game, I did expect both defensive lines to kind of cause problems for the others, especially since both offensive lines are dealing with a lot of depth issues and injuries and whatnot. But I would say that the Cowboys offense was far more disconcerting if you're a Cowboys fan than the Panthers offense if you're a Panthers fan. I'm not just saying that because of the result. I'm saying it because of the way it all went down. The Cowboys' concern going into the season was exactly what unfolded, which was nobody stepped up at the wide receiver position. If you want to count Cole Beasley with 7 catches and 73 yards, fine. But all the other receivers combined, 6 others who caught passes, only combined for 27 yards. So that's a problem. Like, the Panthers, I actually thought did some decent things, had a good game plan with Norv Turner as their OC. But the Cowboys offense, to really narrow into your question, is the biggest issue of everything we're talking about.
Yeah, but here's the deal, Jeff. Again, talking to Jeff Darlington here on the Will Cain Show. Look, man, I watched it, and I have massive concerns about the Cowboys' offense. But, statistically, even watching the game, the Panthers' offense put up pretty much similar stats to the Cowboys. I mean, Cam's completion percentage, his yards per attempt. McCaffrey ran the ball for 5 yards a clip, but you know who else did? Zeke. To me, the difference was that Norv Turner knew to call those designed runs for Cam Newton that absolutely destroyed the Cowboys. And Dak has some similar abilities to Cam, but the Cowboys coaches have no idea. All this talk about Dak friendly. I'd love to hear them define that. But I'm telling you, man, it might just be that we saw two good defenses yesterday. Don't get me wrong. I'm worried about the Cowboys, though.
Well, yeah, but it was also a little bit of a tale of two halves, too, because the Norv Turner's plan, I thought, in the first half, like you said, it did put Cam in a position to be the aggressor and to do some really good things by design, whereas the Cowboys offense in the first half never even got into the Carolina Panthers territory. No. They never even crossed the 50-yard line. I mean, that's insanely bad. Like, that's a real problem. And I would say that I didn't see them design – I didn't see an offense designed for Dak Prescott because, quite frankly, it seemed like he was just trying to make plays to his receivers as opposed to him taking hold of the offense and being the most talented player on that offense, which I think he is. And I don't think that he was in a position where he was the alpha in that offense, but rather just another part of it. And I think that's where the Cowboys are going to need to change things. They will have to put weight on Dak Prescott. And by the way, I said most talented player on the offense. I mean in the passing game. Zeke Elliott is clearly the most talented player on the offense.
Right. ESPN NFL insider and reporter Jeff Darlington here on the Will Cain Show. He was at Carolina, Dallas yesterday. I want to talk about one of the best players in the game in just a moment because I know you were watching Packers-Bears. But one more question from this game. This guy, I don't think gets enough conversation. We're all freaking out about the Cowboys today. Luke Kuechly is absolutely one of the best players in the game, is he not?
He is, and he's awesome, Will. Like, I mean, I'm only saying this because, like, I know everybody here.
Because he was nice to you?
Yeah, he is, and you know how I feel about that. I like anybody who's, you know, a higher profile than me and is nice to me. I like them automatically, no matter what.
Right.
If they like me. But no, Luke Kuechly, seriously, like, he's one of those guys where I tell anybody who's a parent, if you're like looking for a jersey for your kid to buy, Luke Kuechly, he is the best on the field and off the field.
Yeah, he absolutely controls that game. I mean, we have a lesser version of that, I feel like, in Dallas and Sean Lee. I know the difference on when he's on the field and off.
That's right.
And Luke Kuechly's Sean Lee times 2 or something. It's just, it's incredible. Okay. And then for last night, Jeff, I know you were watching Packers, Bears. I don't know what there's to say, man. The guy's just phenomenal, right? I mean,
yeah.
He's so cocky,
I was thinking about
but he earned it.
Yeah, but that's fine. And you know what I really loved about it? Like I hate, and sometimes this happens, I feel like at times with Ben Roethlisberger, maybe a little bit, which I shouldn't just take a cheap shot for no reason. And it happens a lot in the NBA where you see guys leave the court and come back to this ovation. Like, that last night felt genuine. It felt like Aaron Rodgers needed to go to the locker room and that was still in pain. It was not him grimacing for show. Like, I felt like that was real.
But Jeff, do you think that's a serious injury? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, that's fine.
I'm surprised. I would be shocked if the Packers let Aaron Rodgers back on the field with a serious knee injury. I'm not putting doubt on it. I'm not saying it was drama.
No.
Go ahead.
I'm with you, but pain is different. Like, you always hear, is he hurt or is he injured? I think last night Aaron Rodgers was hurt, and it still takes a lot to play through being hurt. And I think that he did that not only to a degree that just got his team by, but to a degree that we have seen very few quarterbacks, even when they're healthy, do it. I mean, like, I remember several years ago, I was in the Lambeau press box and saw him throw just a normal pass that Aaron Rodgers throws, and I thought to myself, that was the best throw of the football I've ever seen in my life. And it sounds like hyperbole, but then last night you see him just drop that dime on a deep pass into the basket, and you're like, that's incredible. Like, what he does time and time again and makes us feel like we're watching the best thing that we've seen is something special, and I think that we are truly, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, watching a historic quarterback.
All right. Good stuff as always. Look forward to seeing you back here in Bristol when you come back, man.
Yeah, man.
Take care.
Sounds good, Will.
All right, see ya. That's ESPN NFL Insider reporter Jeff Darlington on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. All right, coming up, I think there's certain athletes, and sometimes it's Aaron Rodgers, by the way. You got to, like, if you ever have a criticism, okay, he's one of the greatest, but Kyle Fuller did drop an interception. There's certain athletes that you just can't tell the truth about, because otherwise, if you do, you are guilty of all manner of sins in society. One of those athletes is clearly Serena Williams. And when it comes to the media, specifically the media, very few are willing to tell you exactly what. That's the God's honest truth. Very few are willing to call it like it is. I'm going to tell you something. It needs to be. Serena Williams and her meltdown at the U.S. Open next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. On Saturday at the U.S. Open, Serena Williams absolutely melted down and turned that final and the aftermath into an absolute disgrace. And now afterwards, in the days that follow, we in the media and those of us in society and out there on social media have followed that disgrace into a massive argument over whether or not sexism can be embodied by the umpiring of tennis at a major championship. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPNU today. The show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone, on your ESPN app. Serena Williams lost to Naomi Osaka in the U.S. Open final 6-2, 6-4. Unfortunately, that scoreline and the first ever major for the 20-year-old from Japan has been completely and utterly overshadowed by the controversy induced by Serena Williams' meltdown on the court and her attribution to the penalty she received, 3 conduct violations that ultimately cost her a game in the second set, to sexism. How she was treated, Williams maintains, by the umpire, Carlos Ramos of Portugal, was, Portugal, by the way, forgot about we should maybe go to our Portuguese correspondent. And if at any point in here you feel like there's some kind of Portuguese information we need to inject, I want you to hit your button, okay? Got it? Okay, cool. That somehow, if she were a man, she would not have been treated the same. She would not have been issued the same conduct violations as what Serena Williams would have us believe today. Here's the way it went down. By the way, I think this is a total disgrace. It's a disgrace to Naomi Osaka, first of all. She handled herself throughout this entire ordeal with honor. She should be celebrated. She has idolized Serena Williams throughout her entire career, and she bested her. Make no doubt about it. She bested Serena Williams in this U.S. Open, and she should be enjoying her moment both yesterday, Saturday, and the days after. But instead, our focus is on this controversy. And I find it an absolute disgrace that somehow sexism is how this is being described. Sexism is at the core of the problem here. Sexism is really the issue here, not whether or not Serena Williams had some conduct violations. This is how it went down. First, Carlos Ramos issued Serena Williams and her coach a warning for a coaching violation. It is against the rules in tennis for a coach to signal or communicate with their player from the box. Her coach quite clearly was giving her instructions to move up to the net. He was moving his hands back and forth later, or at first she said he was giving her a thumbs up. She said she absolutely does not cheat. For what it's worth, her coach afterwards admitted, I was coaching. His excuse, everybody does it. But when Serena Williams argued with Carlos Ramos, the umpire, like this, recognize that the coach has admitted he was coaching.
I didn't get coaching. I didn't get coaching. You need to make an announcement that I didn't get coaching. I don't cheat. I didn't get coaching. How can you say that? You owe me an apology. You owe me an apology. I have never cheated in my life. I have a daughter and I stand what's right for her and I've never cheated. And you owe me an apology.
I have no idea what the fact that she has a daughter has to do with anything. I have no idea what that absolves someone of a conduct violation in the U.S. Open. It's not a gray area. The coach admitted to it. It was simply a warning for that. For what it's worth at that moment, it was simply a warning for a coaching violation. That's number one. Number two, then, that clearly got under Williams' skin. You can hear there. And as she went forward, she lost a game to Osaka and smashed her racket. Once again, this is not a gray area. This is clear. You smash your racket, you're penalized. Her second conduct violation. That one will cost you a point. In some instances, for what it's worth, it'll get you disqualified. Smash your racket and you're kicked out. She wasn't kicked out. She was issued a second conduct violation. This one cost her a point. Then she went on. She called the referee, demanded an apology. You heard that right there. She berated him, delayed the game for some time. She told him, you're attacking my character. You're never going to work one of my matches again. You are a liar. This went on for some time. You stole a point from me. And not until she said, you are a thief, did he then issue a third conduct violation. This one costing her a game. At that point, she calls all of the umpires out, all of the referees, and continues to argue the calls.
That's not right. This is not fair. This has happened to me too many times. This is not fair. This is not fair. But to give me a point to lose a game for what we're saying, that is not fair. I mean, it's really not. But you know how many other men do things that are, I don't think they do much worse than that. This is not fair. There's a lot of men out here that have said a lot of things, and because they're men, that doesn't happen to them.
There you have it. You can hear the crowd beginning to boo. They're booing the umpire, Carlos Ramos. You can hear Serena Williams invoke the charge of sexism there, that they would not be giving these violations were she a man. For what it's worth, Ramos, in 2017 at the French Open, gave Novak Djokovic a conduct violation for yelling at him. In 2018 at Wimbledon, he also gave Djokovic a conduct violation for smashing his racket. In 2016, he did the same to Nick Kyrgios. In 2016 at the Olympics, he gave Andy Murray a conduct violation for saying he was stupid or calling his umpiring stupid. He gave similar conduct violations to numerous men, numerous superstars on numerous big stages throughout his career. But somehow we are led to believe this was an act of sexism. These 3 different conduct violations. They're not Williams' fault. It wasn't Williams' conduct that led to this. It wasn't Williams that ratcheted up this. No. It was Ramos, who wouldn't have done it if she were a man. That's what Serena Williams and most of your media would have you believe today. It's an absolute falsehood, and it's a disgrace to suggest it's sexism. We'll keep talking about this and the latest in the NFL next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio. Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, you can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
I've read all the Serena Williams arguments. All of those in support of the greatest female tennis player of all time. I've read all the tweets. All of the columns. And they boil down to this. Their argument can be summed up like this. The rules shouldn't apply to Serena Williams. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPNU today. By the way, 1 hour from now, I will have the Washington Post's Sally Jenkins on this show. She wrote a column that went viral this weekend suggesting that this moment between umpire Carlos Ramos and Serena Williams embodies everything that's wrong, all the sexism in our country, and it would not have gone down if Serena were a man. I understand all of the arguments. I hear what you're saying. Oh, the coaching violation, everybody does it. And so therefore it doesn't matter anymore? A lot of people speed. Does that get you out of a ticket? Not everyone that goes fast and over the speed limit gets pulled over. Does that mean when you do, the rules don't apply to you? Oh, but Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe, they smashed rackets in the 1970s. This is 2018. In this decade, in this day and age, that conduct has been penalized no matter the gender of the player. That conduct has been penalized no matter the star status of the player. Serena Williams acted in a way that required 3 conduct violations. The only person to blame for that today is Serena Williams. Dennis from Florida, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Oh, hi, Will. I actually disagree with you because I think what you're doing is playing a blame game, and you're being myopic, and you're not looking at the big picture here. What happened to Serena Williams had a history in and of itself, and her reaction was, first of all, because by accusing her of receiving coaching when she was not, of course you're indicting her character. And of course, if she's not receiving coaching, she's going to react negatively to that.
Okay, first, hold on, Dennis. Hold on, Dennis. Her coach admitted he was coaching her.
Yeah, but if you know the essence of the rule, it's giving and receiving coaching, and the person who gets penalized is the player. If you penalize the player,
Dennis,
you're accusing the player
false.
of voluntarily participating in the action.
Dennis,
and that is not what was going on.
Dennis, that's just... Hey, man, hold on, Dennis. You get to debate me, but you don't get to lie over the airwaves. This idea that it's giving and receiving is complete nonsense, Dennis. Do you think they have a little head antenna they can put on the umpire to understand, oh, by the way, did she see that? Did he see that? Did she internalize it? Did he intend it? Man, that is nonsense. If a coach is caught giving signals from the box, it is a violation. And as you point out, it is administered to the player. It doesn't matter if she's looking or not. He admitted to it. It was a coaching violation. Next.
I mean, it's easy for you to sit there and talk.
What?
Come on.
What? I'm right here. What do you mean, come on? I'm right here. All right, thanks for the call, Dennis. You know, this is what happens. This is celebrity worship. Let me explain you something. Okay, listen to this clip. This is Serena Williams at the press conference after the match, after the award ceremony. She goes and takes questions. I want you to listen to this, but the main thing I want you to listen to is listen to the end. Play it, Spence.
I can't sit here and say I wouldn't say he's a thief because I thought he took a game from me, but I've seen other men call other umpires several things, and I'm here fighting for women's rights and for women's equality, and for all kinds of stuff, and for me to say thief.
Okay, first of all, let me just say something really quickly. Is the rule enforced 100% uniformly? Are you going to be able to find me instances where a man might have said something similar? By the way, there's no record, no evidence that anyone who has said thief before wasn't penalized. Yeah, you probably will. But I can also point out to you numerous examples, and I did, where men who berated an umpire, including Carlos Ramos, this specific ref, were penalized. And second, come on. I mean, quickly spinning this into fighting for all women because of what went down on the finals court at the U.S. Open. This is what it is. It's not about Serena. It's not about her tantrum. This is about the long fight for women's rights against that known and traditional foe, tennis umpires. Go ahead, Spence.
And for him to take a game, it made me feel like it was a sexist remark. I mean, like how he's never took a game from a man because they said thief. For me, it blows my mind. But I'm going to continue
pause real quick. A third violation is a game. That's how it works. 3 violations. 1 warning, 2 point, 3 games. She had 3 violations. It's not about a thief equals game. It's about third violation equals game. Keep going, Spence.
Fight for women and to fight for us to have equal. Like, Courtney should be able to take her shirt off without getting a fine. Like, this is outrageous, you know? And I just feel like the fact that I have to go through this is just an example for the next person that has emotions and that want to express themselves and they want to be a strong woman, and they're going to be allowed to do that because of today. Maybe it didn't work out for me, but it's going to work out for the next person. Thank you, everyone.
That is the media. That is journalists clapping Serena Williams' explanation. I don't care if you agree with Serena or disagree. I have a simple question for you. Is that the job of the media? Is that what media is supposed to do? Clap for those they cover? Celebrate those they cover? That's a joke. That's embarrassment. That's the nail in the coffin of the pretense that there's an objective media out there. What a joke. What we're watching here is an indulgence of celebrity worship. Serena Williams is the greatest female tennis player of all time. She has a great argument for the greatest tennis player of all time. Serena Williams is magnificent. But that does not make her infallible. No matter what symbol you turn her into, no matter how big a pedestal you put her on, she's still a human. She's still capable of mistakes. And she made 3 of them at a minimum on Saturday. And for you to think the mistakes Serena Williams made are excused because you have a bigger fight, because you think they're symbolic of some other cause, is absurd. This is about one human being and one human being's mistake. And those mistakes hijacked another young lady's special moment in the sunlight. And they have hijacked, as far as I'm concerned, any serious claims to sexism. The umpiring of the U.S. Open is not the front lines of the battle between the sexes. If you think it is, I don't know how we're going to have a serious conversation. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Get your quote at progressive.com today. It was a bad day yesterday for the all-hype squad, for the quarterbacks that everyone loved during the offseason. It was a bad day for Deshaun Watson and Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you know who it was a good day for? The AARP members, the old folks home, the ones that everybody was ready to write off, the guys that somehow sprouted wings and flew over a cliff yesterday. Tom Brady and Adrian Peterson. Coming up, chalk one up for the old guys. Next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, you can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. Aaron Rodgers was phenomenal. Tom Brady was phenomenal. Ryan Fitzpatrick was phenomenal. I got one more for you. Joe Flacco was phenomenal. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM channel 80, and on ESPNU. Yeah, I've been sick.
No, I have a proposal.
What?
Should all stats this year against the Bills just not count? Like, I feel like that's a Pat statting team.
Hey, how bad is Nathan
We got to
Peterman?
throw it out. It doesn't count. It's not real.
We got to give up on Nathan Peterman, too, right? I mean, come on, dude.
What are we doing?
Right? I'm not even trying to be mean. It's really bad. I don't know yet about Joe Flacco versus the Bills. I honestly don't know about Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Tampa Bay Bucks against the New Orleans Saints
The
yet.
Bills are like when college football teams play like Savannah State and get like a 77-0 win like Miami did this weekend. It's just, it's an easy win, get the confidence up, and then move on. Nobody really counts that for anything.
Can I tell you something? I am day-quilled up. I'm NyQuil'd the night before. My brain, I'm thick. I'm not on my game. By the way, I'm going to debate Sally Jenkins on this entire Serena Williams issue at the top of 5. I'm probably going to get slaughtered. I am just not sharp today. What happened on that last call, Nuno? What was with that guy? Did you pipe him down, Spence, and he was yelling, and then why did he quit? He seemed all hot and bothered and ready to go, and then he tapped out?
Oh, maybe he got scared.
But the point I'm getting at is I was sick all weekend. I woke up on Saturday. I went from my bed to the couch, and I watched, I'm going to have to guess, it ended up being, what would it have been, 13 hours of football? 13 hours of college football from about 11 a.m. until midnight. It was just college football overload. And I've got some thoughts. We're going to do some college football, perhaps a little bit later in the show, certainly throughout the week. Clemson, A&M. But for now, let's talk about hype. Let's talk about hype versus old folks. Because no two guys in the NFL were more hyped up during this offseason than Jimmy Garoppolo and Deshaun Watson. And you'd be hard-pressed to find two other quarterbacks, besides Dak Prescott, who crushed their hometown fans' hopes more than those two guys. Now listen, it's one game. We're in week 1 of the NFL season. And just like I'm not going to completely and utterly smash the panic button when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, neither should the San Francisco 49er fans nor the Houston Texans fans. But we have to be honest about something. Both of them were bad. First, Jimmy Garoppolo. He completed less than 50% of his passes. 15 of 33, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. How'd you feel, Jimmy?
We knew it was going to be a tough challenge with the environment, going against a good team, and they stood up to everything we thought they would. So, with all the things that went bad, we still had a shot at the end there, but it's just it's a tough way to end it.
I don't think anybody should just yet sell their Jimmy Garoppolo stock, but it's hard. It's hard today for a 49er fan, and it's got to be even harder as you watch guys like Alex Smith light it up in Washington and Pat Mahomes look like the reincarnation of Aaron Rodgers in Kansas City. What's up, Cerruti?
No, I'm not ready to panic on Jimmy. I've always said I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves thinking he's going to be like the next great quarterback. I think he's a good player. He played maybe the first or second best defense in the entire league yesterday. He struggled a little bit. Their weapons aren't great. Their offensive line, they had injuries. So I'm not ready to panic. Deshaun Watson, I'm a little bit more nervous about.
Deshaun Watson was not good either. Watson managed to complete 50% of his passes, 17 of 34, but boy, did he turn the ball over. He had a fumble, he had an interception, and just like Dak Prescott, and for that matter Cam Newton, he couldn't get the ball downfield. He averaged 5.2 yards per pass. But according to ESPN's NFL analyst Rex Ryan, this wasn't on Deshaun Watson.
I think it's unfair to really criticize him. I mean, yeah, he never looked quite as good as he did then, but this is only his 5th game starting, right? Against, by the way, Bill Belichick and all that, who's seen him now for the second time. But Deshaun Watson going to be just fine. And, Will Fuller not being in there, I think hurts him a little bit. But believe me, they need to protect him better. Like, put some more guys into protection. Don't just, you have no money in that offensive line. There's no assets in the offensive line. Your asset is that quarterback. You need to protect him better.
Deshaun Watson wasn't good. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't good. But I'll tell you who was. Some guys who weren't hyped up over this last offseason. In fact, some guys that were doubted well into their Hall of Fame careers. And that would be Tom Brady and Adrian Peterson. Tom Brady, according to our friend First Takes Max Kellerman, he would go over the cliff with this game. Game number 1 of the 2018 NFL season. So how did Brady do? 26 of 39 for 277 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. A quarterback rating of 102. Max today, I believe, Nuno, correct me if I'm wrong, he went on First Take today, and he admitted Tom has now flown over the cliff. He has taken flight, and Max is taking credit.
He said that everyone should apologize to him because at some point I was just like, really? Everyone needs to apologize to him because he's been ahead of the curve. No pun intended.
He said he's the only one fully capable of appreciating Tom Brady's accomplishment because everybody else thought it was run of the mill, that it was expected, that this was exactly how Tom Brady would perform. But in fact, his skepticism shows exactly how stellar Brady's performance was. And then he slides in this little one. He's exactly 1 game over the cliff.
You kind of got to respect it.
Honestly,
you kind of do.
You're right. I mean, Washington, D.C. could take some lessons here. This cliff line has moved so many times. I'm confused myself. I don't even know when it started. I know he started saying it in 16, the summer of 2016. He's managed to move it, I don't know how many times.
And ultimately, he's going to be right at some point, and then he'll claim victory on that.
God, dog it. He also sold short Adrian Peterson for what it's worth. He doesn't have a big time membership in the AARP. Max Kellerman and I have talked about this several times. He likes to doubt old people based upon body of evidence, historical data. But Adrian Peterson with the Washington Redskins ran for 97 yards. I think he had, what did he have? 160 yards in total offense? Something like that. Adrian Peterson was good. Is he going to be able to do this every game? I don't know. But it's a fool's game if you think this is a debate about holding these guys to their own standard. Like, Adrian Peterson doesn't have to be the Hall of Fame running back he was 6 years ago. He just needs to be a good running back. And Tom Brady can't be held against, his MVP level from a year ago. He just has to be a really good quarterback. What? What are you nodding at?
Redskins are making the playoffs.
Alex Smith looked good. Hey, a lot of Redskins fans coming at me. I think the Redskins are 7-9 to 9-7 in that range. I never thought they were terrible. They're just what they always are.
Kind of how I feel and everyone in the room feels about the Cowboys.
I hate all of you.
They're not terrible. They're just, average.
Job well done.
The Cowboys are going to be terrible.
Booger's going to be on the call tonight. I'm still counting on my Mondays here. They're going to be better than today. Job well done last night by Aaron Rodgers, bringing the Packers back from 20 down to beat the Bears. Job well done is brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. With quality parts and know-how, Napa Auto Parts can help you keep your ride running longer, stronger. That's Napa know-how. Coming up, were the Steelers' struggles yesterday a win for Le'Veon Bell? And is the Saints' defense terrible again? Is Pat Mahomes the next Aaron Rodgers? We're going to go around the league with Jeff Saturday next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Let's go around the NFL. Find out what's real, what's gold, and what's fool's gold out there in our Week 1 performances. To do that, let's talk to ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday on the Will Cain Show. He's on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Jeff, what's up, man?
How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm going to fire off a few guys who in their Week 1 performance looked pretty good. You tell me if you think this is real, something you can count on for the rest of the season. We'll do this a little more in depth tomorrow, but I want to get your take on some of these guys. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes. 4 touchdowns, some incredible throws. Is this dude for real?
Holding out on that. Look, a couple of those touchdowns are little pitches. You know, 1.5 yards. We'll give those, and Tyreek Hill did an awful lot amount of work on it. So I'm a holding serve on this one. I'm not ready to co-sign this one quite yet. He did have a good performance, but I'm not jumping on that train quite yet.
Let me give you a guy with a little bit bigger body of work then. How about Ryan Fitzpatrick absolutely lighting it up against New Orleans yesterday? Is that something the Bucs should count on while he's in the lineup?
I think he can give it to you for 2 or 3 weeks. I think the problem for Fitzpatrick always has been the amount of consistency that he can bring. Now, with Deshaun Jackson running the way he did and Evans yesterday, he'll be better than he was when he was with the Jets, which may be enough for where they are. But I think as the season progresses and people get more tape back to him and what the Bucs are going to try to do with him, I think you'll see it slow down.
Jeff Saturday here on the Will Cain Show. Let me ask you about one more guy who had a nice Week 1 performance. Then we're going to talk about whether or not we need to hit the panic button on some of these other guys. Alex Smith in his new uniform. He's a Washington Redskin. Yeah. He looked good. What do you think? Is that what the Skins fans should come to expect?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why they brought him in. I mean, I think, he didn't do anything that he didn't do in Kansas City, right? Tried to protect the football, do short passes, let his guys do it. He had a great ground game yesterday with Adrian Peterson, at the helm. And so, he makes it look good. When you have situations like that, he'll manage the game as good as anybody, and he'll keep you in games. The one thing he will not do is lose games for you, and obviously that's what the Redskins are looking for.
All right, now how concerned should we be about these guys? First, let me ask you, Jeff Saturday, how concerned should Texans fans be about the way Deshaun Watson looks after his first game this season?
Concerned, and I'll say this, concerned for a number of different reasons. One, he's holding on to the ball. He did this in preseason. Even when routes are coming open, he's not delivering the ball. But two, he's got a bad offensive line, man. And those two things can be treacherous for a young quarterback. And also he wants to extend plays, and he's got a bum knee. I mean, you got to protect yourself, especially early in the season with a line like that. The ball's got to come out on time. You can't look to extend plays. He did not look great yesterday. That would be a concern for me.
Jeff Saturday here on the Will Cain Show. Should Niners fans hit the panic button about Jimmy Garoppolo's performance against the Vikings?
No, I think a lot of that had to do with the Vikings. I mean, obviously he didn't do what he's done, the 7-0 or whatever the nonsense everybody was giving him. Anytime, teams get tape on you and they can kind of evaluate you, he didn't have a big body of work to begin with. I think it's growing pains. So I think as you're looking at the way that is, I would not come for that to be the expectation. He played a good defense. Still had, kept the game close. So as you're looking at it, can't be too disappointed. He'll get better as you move on.
Okay, so now let's go with these last two. Give you a little more running room here. I heard you this morning, Jeff Saturday, on Golick and Wingo, talking up something that I didn't think could be talked up today. I watched some of that Giants-Jaguars game, and let me just say I came away unimpressed with the New York Giants.
Yeah.
I came unimpressed with that offensive line, which I have been a doubter of for quite some time. And I believe I heard you this morning on Golick and Wingo saying, hey, you know what? They weren't that bad. In fact, Eric Flowers, not that bad. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this. Now I know he gave up. When the tip pick ends up coming in for Eli, he bought in on a pretty nasty in and out move, and kind of took the bait, which is always disappointing. But here's the deal, man. They looked better as a whole against the best defensive line in the league. From top to bottom, those guys got speed. They got speed at linebacker. They got speed at defensive line. They got pass rushers. They got run stuffers. They got it all. And so as bad as you want to say they played, they still had a chance to win. You don't muff the punt. You still get the ball, can go try to move it against the Jaguars, which is going to be pretty much predictable for all teams playing the Jags. So as you're looking at what they did exactly what they needed to do. Now, were they throttling the Jaguars' defensive line? Absolutely not. But they did give them enough room where Saquon Barkley could have a big run, which is kind of his MO, right? He's going to be stuffed, and all of a sudden he hits a 50-yarder, and it's an amazing run. But I think that, everybody's always dumped on. The reality is Eli didn't play great yesterday. He missed some open throws. I made note of them even as I was watching the game. As you looked at OBJ, man, he had some routes where he broke off Jalen Ramsey. He was open, and the ball didn't come out. And I think part of that is because he's come to expect he's going to get pressure where the ball actually could have been delivered. Now, again, everybody's going to go back and they're, oh, man, he was under harassment. Of course he is, man. You're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Everybody's going to be harassed. But at the end of the day, think about this Jaguars team. What, they get 7 sacks or 8 sacks last year in one game, against the Texans. So this is not an unproductive Jacksonville Jaguars defense. They at least held enough.
So does that same analysis, does that same rationale work for the Dallas Cowboys? I'm going to ask you, should I hit the panic button? But I have to tell you, I think that Carolina defense is really good. I think getting sacked 6 times says a lot, not just about the Dallas offensive line, but how good that Carolina defensive line is. Trust me, I'm concerned about Dak, but in the same way Jimmy Garoppolo faced the Vikings and Eli faced the Jags, does it not need to be contextualized that the Cowboys faced the Panthers?
It does, but here's the difference. Your strength should be that offensive line, even with injury. And I'll say it this way. They should probably take a page out of the Jacksonville Jaguars offense. And that means get the ball in Ezekiel Elliott's hands as many ways and as often as you can, like the Jaguars do Fournette. Understand your receivers aren't going to make huge plays. Your quarterback should probably throw it 10 yards or less a ton, if not the majority of the plays that he throws the football. So protect them. Your defense can play. Rod Marinelli can get your defense where they can hold some teams down. They're going to bend a lot, but they're very rarely going to break. You're really going to have a track meet. So in my opinion, they got to revamp what their ideas are. These big plays and all these kinds of things, you better bend it down and let Ezekiel Elliott be the guy and get him 30, 35 touches. Le'Veon Bell, this dude. Stop acting like 15 touches is enough. That's not enough.
I'm totally with you, man. I mean, they need to get into this current decade with their offensive philosophy. I'm just afraid these guys can't do it. All right, ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday here on the Will Cain Show. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, brother. Have a great one.
All right. Coming up, were the Steelers' struggles yesterday a win for Le'Veon Bell? And coming up in about 15 minutes, I'm going to have a conversation, maybe a debate, with the Washington Post's Sally Jenkins about Serena Williams and whether or not her incident, her tantrum this past weekend was the result of sexism. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Will Cain. Tweet the show at Will Cain Show through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. More from the Will Cain Show coming up.
Did yesterday reinforce Le'Veon Bell's necessity, his worth to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Talk about that in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. And coming up in about 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to be joined by the Washington Post's Sally Jenkins, who has a column out explaining how Serena Williams' episode this past weekend at the U.S. Open is the result of sexism. I disagree with that. We'll have a conversation about it. By the way, you can tweet the show at Will Cain Show on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes up for your football obsession like a surprise from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order a dozen multicolored roses plus an extra bouquet and a vase for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. The Cleveland Browns get their first tie of the season. They've broken the losing streak, tied the Pittsburgh Steelers 21-21. And before we talk about Le'Veon Bell, I want to talk to you about this job. You know, I've been doing this show with you for about 7 months, and I'm still in the learning phase. There's no doubt about it. The show's going great. Ratings are going great. Affiliates are picking up the show. Everything is going well for the Will Cain Show. But I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, I'm not learning as we go. What things work, what doesn't work, what do you want to talk about, how do we want to talk about it? And I'm going to tell you a funny little thing, and this dates back to before the Will Cain Show. This is even going back to when I used to do this with Ryan Russillo for a few months. And Serena, you can speak to whether or not it goes longer. But there's this funny thing that Serena and I have been talking about today. Mondays provide you a ton of content during the NFL season. I mean, we just had 16 NFL games, 15, I guess, NFL games in the past 24 hours. There's so much to talk about. But after all that, Mondays are actually hard because how do you talk about all of these games? And how do you do it in an interesting way? And can you possibly cover every game? Should you even try to cover every game? The point is this. Sorry, by the way, am I right? That's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
It's tough. I don't know if that went back to the SVP and Russillo days. I don't know how many shows talk about this, but it's tough to do justice to 15 games. So do you pick 2 or 3 and save others for throughout the week? The point I'm getting to you is this. When there's so many games in one day, storylines get lost. Performances get lost. Russillo used to talk about this when it comes to the curse and the benefit of primetime games. I remember him going on a rant. Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. You have a big game in one of those spotlights, you are the greatest quarterback or defensive end or running back of all time. But you put one of those games up during the 1 o'clock slot on Sunday afternoon in Tennessee, and nobody cares. Same thing works with stinkers. You got a stinker on a Thursday night, we're going to question your career for the next month. But if you put up a stinker, and yesterday, like Ben Roethlisberger, and you don't know how to get it into your Monday content. Like, how do we talk about how bad Ben Roethlisberger was yesterday?
It was like the 3rd or 4th most interesting thing in that game.
In that single game. Yes. I told you I want to talk about Le'Veon Bell and James Conner and Myles Garrett. Oh, my God, Myles Garrett. I seriously, during the commercial break, said to you, would you rather have Khalil Mack or Myles Garrett? Forget their contracts for a moment, how much they make. If you could just take either guy, I mean, I don't know the answer. I think it might be Myles Garrett. Every time I looked up, that dude was sacking the quarterback and causing a fumble. I think he had 2 sacks, 2 caused fumbles, 3 tackles for a loss, and he was doing it all preseason as well. The dude is amazing. He's unblockable right now. And so Khalil Mack was the same thing in the first half of Bears-Packers. But Ben Roethlisberger put up an absolute stinker. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. And some of those interceptions, by the way, the one he threw to Demarius Randall way down the field, his long bomb, wasn't even close to Antonio Brown. He threw it, was it 2 to Denzel Ward? 2 to Ward? And the second one was also just a bad throw. I don't know if the receiver didn't run the right route. I can't tell you that today, but I can tell you this. It was just straight into the belly of Denzel Ward. The long bomb to Randall, and that pick was worse. It was just so far off accuracy. And Roethlisberger is going to escape a vast amount of scrutiny today. He's going to escape a vast amount of criticism because, hey, what do you do? How do you talk about Roethlisberger today? He's the 3rd most interesting thing in that game. Which brings us to Le'Veon Bell. Once again, Le'Veon Bell's replacements look good in his stead. Look good in his position. James Conner, 31 rushes for 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also, by the way, very Bell-esque, 5 catches for 57 yards. Yes, he had a big fumble. By the way, 1 caused by Myles Garrett. So join the long list of graves people Myles Garrett's putting into the grave right now. But James Conner, like D'Angelo Williams before him, is performing very well as a substitute replacement for Le'Veon Bell. Does that diminish Bell's value? Or the fact that they tied the Cleveland Browns 21-21, does that increase Bell's value? We were just talking to Jeff Saturday, ESPN's NFL analyst, and I heard him again this morning on Golic saying, I don't care what your fantasy football stats look like. I don't care what fans saw. It was still obvious how Bell was missed.
Whatever you want to say about Bell and his contract and all those things, Conner did play fantastic, and he's going to be a great back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not trying to minimize what he did. Bell being there would have helped them win that game. Yeah. I'm just telling you, I don't care what anybody else says. I'm telling you, it changes, it impacts whether you're a fan and you love him or hate him. His impact was felt by the Pittsburgh Steelers because their offense can't be exactly what it was and as productive as it would be if Bell were in the game.
Saturday pointed out that the Browns sat back in cover 2, inviting the Steelers to run with James Conner, a defense they would never have put out there had Bell been in the backfield. And that's fine. No one's going to argue that Conner is as good or better than Bell today. But the argument that should be had is if you can get this kind of production from a guy at a much different contract rate, is Bell worth maxing out? If you can get this from James Conner, how much is Bell worth in financial dollars, real money, contracts? You have to imagine less than yesterday. Ian from North Dakota, you're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Ian? We only have about a minute. Tell me what you have today.
Hey, I just wanted to talk. First off, Will Cain, good to enjoy you. I listen to you every day at work. Huge fan.
Thanks, man.
But also, you were mentioning something about the Cowboys head coaching and stuff like that. Who do you think would make a good fit if we would get rid of Jason Garrett? And do you think Jerry would hire a non-yes man?
All right, thanks for the call, Ian. Here's the thing. I'm not ready to answer that question yet. I'll tell you what I want. I want an offensive coordinator that exists in 2018, that lives in the now. I want a Sean McVay. I want a Matt Nagy. I want an Andy Reid. I want a Doug Peterson, somebody innovative. When I put that on Twitter last night, do you know the name that was forwarded back to me from some guys I respect? Lincoln Riley from OU. I don't know yet. I'll just tell you that I don't think it's the guys they have on staff right now. Coming up, the Washington Post, Sally Jenkins disagrees with me on Serena Williams. She joins the show next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, you can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and today on ESPNU, where you can watch us while we talk. You can also join the conversation 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We're going to get back to exactly how hard we should mash the panic button in Dallas and whether or not folks in Houston or San Francisco should do the same. But we start off this hour talking about Serena Williams and whether or not what went down at the U.S. Open was emblematic and, in fact, attributable to sexism. There's a column up at the Washington Post by one Sally Jenkins. The headline reads, "At U.S. Open, power of Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka is overshadowed by an umpire's power play." I'm going to read for you just the first sentence of the column. Chair umpire Carlos Ramos managed to rob not one, but two players in the women's U.S. Open final. In fact, I want to read you more than one sentence just to set it up. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. An umpire so wrecked the big occasion that both players, Naomi Osaka and Serena Williams alike, wound up distraught with tears streaming down their faces during the trophy presentation, and an incensed crowd screamed boos at the court. Ramos took what began as a minor infraction and turned it into one of the nastiest and most emotional controversies in the history of tennis, all because he couldn't take a woman speaking to him sharply. The author of this column, Sally Jenkins of the Washington Post, is now joining me on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Sally, thank you for jumping on the Will Cain Show.
My pleasure.
Sally, I want to be gracious, but I also want to be honest. I disagree with you. Did you suspect that might be the case?
That's okay.
I disagree extensively.
It's happened to me before, if you can believe it.
I do believe that. Here's the thing, Sally, and I'm not trying to be trite and I'm not trying to be dismissive. I want to be open-minded. I want to hear your point of view. But when I hear all of the arguments that excuse Serena Williams' performance and behavior this weekend, when I hear all of the reasons for why this went down, it boils down to this for me. It seems that when it comes to Serena Williams, the argument is being made, the rules should not apply. Tell me what I'm missing.
Okay, so first of all, the chair umpire is perfectly within his authority to call her for coaching, even though it was a silly call that has no impact on the match. But it's a technicality. He made it. The second call, she destroys her racket, and he has to call that one. The issue here is that third call where he calls her for verbal abuse, which really tilts the match, and he levels a penalty that is really unprecedented in its harshness, and frankly, a penalty that really is so wildly out of proportion to the offense. She doesn't do anything in that third instance worthy of penalty. There's no profanity. There's no obscenity. There's no menace. There's no threat. There's really not even any rudeness. She was quite polite when she said, look, you robbed me. I'm being robbed here. That's all she said. I don't recall, and I don't think in history there's been an instance where a player said so little and was penalized so much.
So, good. We can narrow this conversation down to that third infraction because we agree the first infraction is one that may be commonly violated but is still against the rules. The second one is clear. The smashing of the racket is clear, which put her on essentially the third infraction. But we agree with this. Regarding the penalty, the one game penalty for the third infraction, he didn't have discretion on the penalty. He had only discretion on whether or not to call the third infraction, correct? The game was built into it. If you get a third infraction, you are penalized a game.
Well, my point would be there's no infraction. I mean, what was he calling? I mean, he calls her for verbal abuse over what? I mean, that's the problem here. You're essentially, he walked her to the edge of the cliff and then he pushed her over it.
Sally, you said that. How did he walk her to the edge of the cliff? She was the one doing all of the talking.
Because you could, the coaching, and I wouldn't have made the coaching call. I mean, I think most people agree that was actually a ridiculous thing for him to call her on. Nevertheless, you can justify it, based on a technicality. But that call really starts the cascade of terrible events that lead to this really, ugly, nasty controversy. And, I think you're going to see that a rule change as a result. I think they're probably going to remove the discretion of the chair umpire to even make that call as a result of this. Nevertheless, he makes it fine. He makes the second call. He doesn't really, I don't think he has discretion with the second call or you have to penalize her for destroying the racket. The most she should have gotten is that 1 point penalty. In more than 3,500 tennis matches, there has never been another incident in which a player was penalized like this.
Well, but
It's
Sally, if I may, that's because
simply unprecedented.
But that's because many of these same situations weren't on their third violation. They were on their first or second. This guy, Carlos Ramos, has in fact done this with, and by the way, you mentioned you think this is attributable to sexism, but he's done this to men. He's done it to Djokovic twice.
Well, no, he hasn't. No, he hasn't.
Yes.
He hasn't. No, he hasn't.
He gave, in 2016 at the Olympics, he penalized Andy Murray for calling him stupid or calling his umpiring stupid. Whether or not it's on a warning violation with the first or a point infraction on the second, he's penalized that violation.
This guy has never taken an entire game away from a player.
That's because it wasn't on the third violation, though. Not because the foul wasn't a foul.
That's because he doesn't call third violations on anybody but Serena Williams. I mean, you're making your own counterpoint here.
No.
The only person he's ever done this to is Serena Williams.
No, it's because Andy Murray didn't smash a racket before that. It's because Andy Murray wasn't charged with a coaching violation before that.
Because he's lenient on other players. That's my point. I mean, he simply is.
What evidence do you have of that?
Well, go to YouTube and look up 500,000, 500,000 videotapes of male players smashing rackets, cursing out chair umpires, cursing out this chair umpire, destroying equipment. I mean, I covered a match where Andre Agassi called the chair umpire an SOB and spit at him and played on without penalty.
What year was that?
It happens all the 1990. I covered the match. Agassi, Peter Korda at the U.S. Open.
But we agree that things have changed from the 90s to 2018.
No,
from the 80s
things haven't
to 2018.
changed a bit. Things have not changed one bit.
The rules have changed.
Roger Federer in 2018, this summer, destroyed a racket and was incredibly profane with a referee and played on without penalty. Just this summer, Roger Federer.
Sally, he told her, she said to him that she demanded an apology, that she was never going to work one of her matches again. She called him a liar. She said he stole a point from her, and then she called him a thief. It wasn't until the final line that she was charged with verbal abuse. You see all of that. You see all of the diatribes she went through for I don't know how long it went on, and you come away with that was polite behavior?
Well, sure. I didn't call it polite.
A moment ago you did.
No, what I said was she was not profane. She didn't use any obscenity. The thing that he gives her what he gives her the verbal abuse penalty for is she said, you've seen the replay yourself. She's not yelling. She's not screaming. She looks up at the chair and says, you stole a point from me.
I think she says
it she says it in a rather reasonable tone of voice, frankly, compared to the male players who have shouted at this guy. I mean, really, I don't know how you can, in all honesty, sit there and having watched as many men as you've watched on tennis courts rant and rave at chair umpires without so much as a point penalty.
Because I have numerous... Sally, the answer to that...
Chair umpires have huge latitude to exercise incredibly wide discretion all the time, where they understand that the engine is running hot and the players on the court, and it is their job to be quiet stewards of the match and make it all about the tennis, and to let the players simmer down and get back on the court and hit another tennis
ball. Sally, who was ramping this up? Who was ramping this up? Carlos Ramos or Serena Williams?
Carlos Ramos.
And how did he do that?
And he started by baiting her with the coaching call in the first place when he knows damn good and well it had absolutely no impact on the play on the court.
Is a police officer baiting someone who's speeding down the highway because he pulls them over, even if he doesn't pull over everybody? Is he baiting that person?
When a police officer pulls up someone speeding and slaps him in handcuffs, it's an abuse of authority. And that's what happened in this match.
No, it's not what happened in this match. He pulled her over for speeding with the first violation. She then did something equating whatever it is, racket smashing. And it wasn't until the third, when she gave him a verbal abuse, that he gave the game penalty. See, the difference is I have numerous examples of Carlos Ramos, much less any other umpire, giving similar infractions, code violations to men. The difference in how hefty the penalty was whether or not it was their first, second, or third violation.
But
it was her third violation.
You don't have numerous examples because it has only happened once before in roughly 3,500 matches.
What has only happened once before?
A chair umpire taking an entire game away from a player.
Sally, we have to understand that the game is coordinated. It's tied to it being the third violation.
No,
it's not tied to the severity of the verbal abuse. It's tied
Okay, but the chair umpire, Will, you and I both know the chair umpire has huge latitude and huge discretion to decide what is verbal abuse and what is not. He lost his temper in that third code of conduct violation, and he decided he was going to show her who was in charge.
I think we're just going to have a disagreement on who lost their temper there.
Well, they both did. I mean, that's the point. They both did. Look, tennis players lose their tempers all the time. I mean, I'm not denying that she lost her temper. I'm not saying that her behavior was defensible in terms of, that she shouldn't have been penalized. I'm saying nobody in a has ever seen a punishment of.
All right. I'm kind of breaking up at the end here, Sally, but I appreciate you jumping on and debating me today. I read your column, and once again, I thank you for being a good sport and having this conversation. I don't know if she's happy or sad. Can't tell because the phone's breaking up. All right, the Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Coming up, 888-SAY-ESPN. You can let me know your thoughts on that conversation and Serena at the U.S. Open. Plus, why it was a bad start, but I'm not panicking for my Cowboys Super Bowl predictions. Next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Football season is finally underway, and if you play fantasy football, there's good odds you probably already hate your team and wish you could draft again. Well, on FanDuel, you can draft a new team every week. Plus, FanDuel's never been more fun or easier to play. If you're not a fantasy expert, then FanDuel's clearly the place to play because FanDuel has something for everyone, and there are more ways to win than ever before. FanDuel has a new tool called Guru to help you pick your lineup so you can make smarter picks and feel more confident going into game day. They've made it easy to find your friends and challenging them to play head-to-head contests for cash or for bragging rights. I know I'll be going on almost a week-to-week basis just to get Zeke Elliott because, man, he's going to blow up the league this year. So, new users to FanDuel can get a $20 bonus when they make their first deposit on FanDuel. Come play with me at FanDuel.com/Will Cain. That's FanDuel.com/WILLCAIN. Just had Sally Jenkins from the Washington Post on talking about her column on whether or not Serena Williams' episode this past weekend was a reflection of sexism, if it was the result of sexism. The bottom line is this. If, like Sally, you submit that the first two infractions, the coaching violation and the smashing of the racket, are violations, then you cannot argue that on the third violation you shouldn't get a game. Because it flows. These are the rules in tennis. First conduct violation, warning. Second conduct violation, point penalty. Third conduct violation, game penalty. When she crossed the line for the third violation, it really wasn't up to him what the penalty would be. It's written. It's codified. The third is a game penalty. This referee has given conduct violations for verbal abuse to numerous men. So it can't be sexism if he's given it to everybody out there, including Djokovic, Kyrgios, and Andy Murray at the Olympics. So this is how it flows logically. If this guy's giving conduct violations for verbal abuse to everybody, then it's not because Serena's a woman. And if the penalty is more than what those men got in their instances, it's because they hadn't ramped it up to the third violation yet. Theirs was still at the point penalty violation or maybe even at the warning stage. You see? Conduct flows as many violations as you have ramps up the penalty. Hers came on the third. Brian from Kentucky, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Will, I appreciate it. Listen, here's what I kind of liken it to, and I agree with you completely that it was the third violation. The rule says you have to apply it. But it's almost like the last play of a basketball game where they don't call a foul. Having said that, I think, you should play the basketball game the whole way through, and you foul him on the last shot, you foul him, and he goes to the free throw line. That's the way it should be, but they don't call that foul. And I think in this instance, it was probably a little harsh for him to jump so quickly to say it was verbal abuse. So maybe he should have, if you saw the two referees that came out, they were kind of reasoning with her a little bit more, and that chair umpire was kind of waiting to pounce.
Honestly, Brian, I just disagree with you. I think it went on for a long time. If you watch the match, and I went back and watched that second set, if you watched how long Serena carried this on, how many different times she said something negative about him, it wasn't a moment. It wasn't a 10-second outburst. It went on and on and on. And I think ultimately she did cross the line. I think she should have gotten the verbal abuse conduct penalty. And as for whether or not the referee should see the context and time, I just disagree. I think you call the last 2 minutes of a basketball game the same way you call the rest of the game. I think just because it's the end of a football game, you don't stop calling holding penalties at that moment. You got to be consistent. You don't go, well, this is a big moment, so let's not call a foul on LeBron, or let's definitely call anything that happens to LeBron a foul. You don't change because of the moment. Consistency is what you're supposed to do in the rules.
And I agree wholeheartedly with that. I'll tell you what gets lost in all of this, though, is the reality is she was kind of outplayed. That's why she broke a racket. The frustration came out. But the verbal abuse, though, I thought it was more verbal abuse when she was pointing her finger at the chair umpire. But she didn't get, again, the same thing, have the consistency when she's pointing her finger at him and she was yelling at him and saying, you owe me an apology. And she was talking about she's a role model for her daughter. And that's, that's.
I don't know what that has to do with anything. I don't have any idea.
And I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. But when she was yelling at him, I thought she was more verbally abusive than she was when she said, well, you're a thief.
All right, I appreciate the call, Brian. I do. By the way, invoking the fact that she has a daughter and also pulling the sexism card to me in the end, it shows the weakness of the moment. It shows how weak her argument was that she was somehow being done unfairly. She's saying she doesn't deserve a violation. At the same time, her coach is saying, yeah, I was coaching. Let's move to football. Carlton from Tampa. You're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Carlton?
Before we move to football, Will Cain, Sally Jenkins is a social justice warrior who sees sexism and racism in every single issue. All you have to do, Will, to prove this point is rack up her interview with her that you just conducted, in which she says at the beginning there was no rudeness on the part of Serena. She was very polite with the umpire. This is, of course, why she's calling him a liar and a thief, and it'll never work another game. And then 2 minutes later, Sally Jenkins says, I never said Serena was polite.
I know, and you're right, Carl.
Rack it up. She said exactly that 2 minutes earlier. She's so blinded by seeing everything through her sexist, racist lens.
All right, Carlton, I got it, man, because I heard it in the moment. It's true. By the way, I do really appreciate Sally Jenkins coming in. She knew what she was getting into, and I appreciate her doing that. I know you want to gloat about Ryan Fitzpatrick, so do it before I run out of time.
Her own interview.
What? What?
Have her listen to her own interview.
Get your moment on Fitzpatrick. Go ahead. Do your dance.
All right.
You're in the end zone.
Here's how you are blinded and you're part of the fake sports media. When you talk about
I'm
Mahomes,
fake sports media now. One moment I'm a hero. The next I'm fake.
You said Mahomes could be the second coming of Aaron Rodgers. The guy completed 2 touchdown passes that were 1 yard shuffle.
Get out of here, Carlton. I watched that game. Mahomes was amazing. I'm waiting to do that show on Tuesday. But wait till tomorrow. Mahomes was amazing.
27, Will. 50 of 27. 2 1-yard shuffle passes. Another 11-yard
Carlton, you can't deny how great Mahomes was. He was throwing darts with defensive tackles draped all over him.
You are out of your mind.
You're out of your mind. Do your Fitzpatrick dance. Don't talk about Mahomes.
All right. The guy who was 9.5 points underdog, the biggest underdog of the week, against Drew Brees, arguably the third best quarterback in the NFL, away in New Orleans, has a 156 passer rating, a QBR of 97, throws 4 touchdown passes, 3 of which were bombs, runs over the New Orleans safety for a rushing touchdown at the goal line, and scores the most points in Bucks' 43-year history. And you guys don't even mention
I talked about it. I did. I said it's part of the AARP celebration club.
But not on First Take.
How many interceptions?
Not on First Take.
I don't get to pick every topic, Carlton, on First Take.
Unbelievable. That shows your biases.
Oh, my bias. I think I'm banned from that show, from what I understand.
You're biased against white quarterbacks from Harvard.
You're insane. Well, all right, see you tomorrow, Carlton. You're insane. Did he say white quarterbacks from Harvard? Did he say Harvard at the end of that? Oh, my God, he's insane. By the way, over-under on picks Fitzpatrick throws next week, 4. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Coming up, I'm not ready to hit the panic button on my Cowboys, even if it gets me banned on First Take. It's the Will Cain Show. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Hey, you want me to play something for you that this is the sound of the Stone Ages. You ever wondered what the Stone Ages sounded like? Like, if you got in a time machine, you could go back and you set it to something like, I don't know, 110 BC. You're like, is that Stone Ages? No, you got to go way further back, Will. Yeah, like 1,500 BC. Forget that. Strike that. Well, if you took it back like to 1200 BC, I don't even know if my timeline's right, but let's not get caught up on that. Anyway, this is what the Stone Ages sounds like.
We had some penalties that got us into some second and long situations. We had sacks and some minus plays. And so I felt like we were kind of digging out too much, trying to survive these drives too much early on in the ball game.
Okay, I can't take any more of it. You know, Dallas media spends a lot of time talking about Jason Garrett and says he's a robot. Robot Garrett. Tell me if you didn't have like a computer program voice, the cadence and tone wouldn't sound exactly like this.
We had some penalties that got us into some second and long situations. We had sacks and some minus plays. And so I felt like we were kind of digging out too much, trying to...
What do you think Jason Garrett sounds like when he's mad? Like, his vocal variation is within a bandwidth of about, I don't know, this much. Like, I don't even know decibels, but not very many.
It's not a decibel level. It's probably like a level of salt. Like, he'll go a little salty with you if he's mad.
Listen, Mrs. Garrett, I am very angry with you. That is a very nice dinner you made for me. I am happy. I am mad. This is my angry voice. This is my happy voice. Hard to know, Coach. Should I be pumped up or depressed? What do I do, Coach? I'll tell you what you do. You take Jerry Jones by the ear and you drag him to a television in front of Packers-Bears. And you say, hey, Jerry, watch Matt Nagy coordinate the first half of this game. Watch what he's doing with Mitchell Trubisky. Watch them move the ball. Or have you ever noticed that when the Rams play, that Jared Goff has free receivers running on almost every play? He doesn't have to dance around in the pocket and wonder where he's going to go with the ball. The Dallas Cowboys might want to figure out a way to scheme some of their below-average receivers wide open. The bottom line is the Dallas Cowboys are stuck, if not in the Stone Ages, in 2007. Jason Garrett was the offensive whiz in 2008-9. Princeton guy, coordinating offenses out there. Well, I got news for you. It's 2018. And Sean McVay and Matt Nagy and Doug Peterson are coordinating not all world beaters, okay? Not Tom Brady, not Drew Brees. This is why I'm saying get one of these guys. I think Sean Payton's great. Josh McDaniels is great. But how many guys are great with Hall of Fame quarterbacks? I'm talking about taking Goff and Trubisky and Foles and winning with them. Until the Cowboys coaching staff does that and realizes, hey, you might want to give Zeke the ball a few more times, I'm going to have my finger hovering over the panic button. But I'm not mashing it yet because it's only week 1. And there's good news. Nuno's Giants are coming to town next Sunday. What's, Rudy?
I'm just confused with your Matt Nagy love right now.
Man,
Trubisky wasn't good last night.
Trubisky was good in the first half. I don't know what you're talking about.
He had 171 yards, 4.9 per throw.
They were almost all in the first half.
They did nothing in the second half.
He honestly had 60 yards in the second half. I've looked this up. His first half, man, they were moving the ball. And maybe Nagy only had 25 plays drawn up. I think Bill Simmons tweeted that last night. Nagy clearly had a play sheet of 25 plays. And then after that, he's like, well, what next?
Why did everybody on Twitter, everybody watching that game knew it was going to happen last night? Don't play not to lose, play to win. They played not to lose, and they lost Aaron Rodgers.
I saw somebody say they started the 4-minute drill with 30 minutes left.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I'm not saying Matt Nagy is proven like these other guys yet, but he's off the Andy Reid coaching tree. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I want Andy Reid coaching tree. That's what I want. I don't just want flavor of the month offensive whiz. I don't want to risk getting Ben McAdoo. I want the Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy. Are you upset? Don't be upset. What?
I'm not. I'm fine.
You're terrible. You guys are terrible. The Giants are terrible.
We'll see.
You feel confident about next Sunday?
No, I don't feel confident about anything with this team.
Yeah, good. All right.
Except for Odell and Chat.
We need to do something on the show here, then. What do we got? Like, we need some sort of...
We need to fire Jerry Jones. That's what we need. Listen to this. Listen to Adam Schefter. Speaking of this, he's kind of saying, I don't know what he's saying. He's just saying.
I just think that there's the expectation in Dallas from Jerry Jones that they do well. And if they don't, then we see the consequences. And I think there would be consequences if they don't win this year and go to the postseason and have the kind of year that they expect.
Well, yeah, there better be consequences. The question is, what if it's week 7? Would it be I'm not going to panic. I'm not saying firing Jason Garrett today. I still think it's game 1 against a really good Carolina defense. Yes, Nuno?
So will you panic on Sunday night at 11:30 if your team loses?
I won't show up for this show. You're going to get a guest host.
You and Bubba bail.
At least I showed up for week 1. Bubba didn't even come for week 1. If they lose to the Giants and I have to face your behind on Monday, God help me. I'm going to Serena Williams this show. I'm going to start pointing at people's faces. I'm going to demand apologies. I'm going to tell people that I have a daughter, and I'm not going to be here.
No, you don't.
You going to cry? I have children, Serena.
Hey,
I have children.
Question for you. When is the flag going to be waved? Like, what record will you finally just say, hey, I was wrong? Because we can't have this max thing where it just keeps going.
Stop it. You're impugning my character. Stop it. I have sons, Cerruti. I have children. You stop it. You're calling me a liar. Cole, in Georgia, he's calling me a liar. He's a thief. Cerruti's a thief. He's stealing my thunder, Cole.
He is stealing your thunder.
I know it.
So, first of all, how are you?
I'm good. What's been going on down there in Georgia?
Oh, you saw Thursday night.
Uh-huh. Falcons? No bueno.
Yeah. So I feel like the Falcons and the Cowboys pretty much lost in similar fashions.
You got it.
The defenses both look pretty good, but the offenses were just awful.
The only difference, Cole, and I don't mean to make you feel worse, but the only difference is Sarkisian and your team is doing less with more. At least with the Cowboys, you could say they're not doing much with not much. Now, I'm not giving the Cowboys any leash. I'm not giving you an excuse. I'll tell you what. I'll do you this deal. I will trade you Scott Linehan for Steve Sarkisian. Would you make that deal, Cole?
How about I'll just give you start? So I'll give you start right now.
You just give him to me? I don't even have to give you Scott Linehan?
No, we'll promote somebody.
All right, Cole. Thanks for the call. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. Hey, is it official? Is Aaron Rodgers better than Tom Brady? Has Tom Brady admitted it? That in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show. But first, P.I. from Florida. What's up, P.I.?
Will, what's going on, man? You better start panicking.
What,
you guys looked terrible yesterday. All I can think about was Stephen A. talking about Jason Garrett over there looking like a cheerleader or a backup quarterback, clapping every single time the camera cut to him. He looks is he ever mad at a player? Does anybody ever miss an assignment? Like, does he ever chew anybody out or do anything that says we need to pick it up?
The last.
You remember the team scored single digits yesterday, or in the NFL so far? How many teams?
No.
3.
Really?
You guys?
Okay. Who else?
The Cardinals and the Bills. That's it.
P.I.
That's your company for this year. You better hope for 4 wins. I know you're tired of Jason Garrett, so
4 wins.
See you later, Will.
Oh, yeah, appreciate your call there, P.I.
Will, the Cowboys are going to be terrible.
That's an ugly little factoid that P.I. just gave me. The Bills and the Cardinals, only other teams to score single digits.
Those are the 2 worst teams in the league. Like, it's not even close. And then
definitely the Bills. I'm not sure yet on the Cardinals. Let's tap the brakes a little bit. Hey, the Titans might be if Marcus Mariota's out. He could be hurt. I don't know if everybody. I don't know how many people watched that game because it took 7 hours, but Mariota got hurt. So that's not going to be good for the Titans. Yeah, look, I'm not going to defend Jason Garrett. I think that's clear, but I'm also not selling the Cowboys 1 game into the season. Listen to this tweet from Ian O'Connor. He says the following. Tom Brady once told an NFL coach if Aaron Rodgers had Patriots' offensive scheme and institutional knowledge on opposing defenses, he'd throw for 7,000 yards every year. He's so much more talented than me. That's apparently what Tom Brady had to say about Aaron Rodgers. Now, I don't doubt Ian O'Connor, but I'm going to need to go ahead and get that one sourced. I can't just have hearsay on this one. He's so much more talented than me, but the truth is it's believable. I mean, there's so many different conversations. Who's better? Who's more talented? Every time we have this conversation, it falls back on Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith using words like arm talent. And one cannot deny Aaron Rodgers' talent. That throw last night to Geronimo Allison, it's fascinating that it was only 39 yards because it felt like it traveled 60 yards and dropped right in a bucket to Geronimo Allison for a touchdown. It's just amazing. And look, you've heard every NFL analyst talk about it. Dude can make any throw he wants without his feet being set. He's masking what is, just like Jason Garrett in Dallas and Scott Linehan in Dallas, a really terrible offensive scheme in Mike McCarthy. He doesn't even, well, who knows? We don't even know if it's good because Aaron doesn't play on schedule. Does what he wants out there. But that doesn't mean he's better. It's hypothetical. We'll never know what Aaron Rodgers would look like in the Patriots offensive scheme. All we know that what Tom Brady looks like in that scheme is, well, the greatest quarterback of all time. 5 Super Bowl rings, 8 Super Bowl appearances, most recent MVP of the season, Super Bowl record for yards. By the way, everybody's saying today, Aaron Rodgers, that throw, Geronimo Allison, only one guy in the league makes that throw. Is that true? There's only one quarterback in the league that can make that throw. I have another name who can make that throw. Pat Mahomes in Kansas City. You doubt me? I'm telling you something. That dude is the reincarnation of Aaron Rodgers. I'm telling you right now.
We got to do this tomorrow. We're going to do...
I know it's hard. It's hard not to. It's so good. It was so good.
Yes, 1 week against in basically a home game in Los Angeles for them. Now,
I don't even understand these people saying he threw 3-yard passes.
We need to do
Did
this
they not
tomorrow.
watch the game?
We need to do this tomorrow. What do you believe and what do you not believe from week 1? Because do you believe that Ben's trash? Do you believe Mahomes is the next Rodgers? Do you believe Watson and Garoppolo are trash? We're doing this tomorrow.
We'll do it tomorrow.
We'll sort it out.
We're doing it live. I'm just going to put it on the record right now. I believe in Mahomes. What's up? Why are you mad? Look at now. You're throwing your hands around.
I'm not mad.
You throw your hands around all the time and nobody knows.
I'm laughing. Hey, how those Chargers look though?
Oh, you're coming at me both ways, huh? Cowboys and Chargers. Man, Joey Bosa's out. Jason Verrett's out. Bosa injury. What are they saying? Several weeks, possibly a month? Foot injury? I don't know.
Has anyone made a Super Bowl prediction where both teams missed the playoffs?
Has anybody made a Super Bowl prediction that was actually accurate, that worked out?
Probably, yeah.
No, they haven't. Nobody gets that right. Freaking 20 weeks ahead of time. All they do is play it safe. That's what they do. Give me the Patriots and the Vikings. Those are the highest Vegas odds. I'll take that because that's least likely to be wrong. You got everybody out here trying their best not to be right, but do their best not to be wrong. I'm not afraid to be wrong. I'm getting sicker as the show goes on. What's up, Rex?
They are missing their center, but this isn't Kareem Abdul-Jabbar here at center. You know what I mean? Like, he's a good football player, but come on, you still got 2 or 3 Pro Bowlers in that offensive line. Quit making excuses and get out and pound somebody.
That's Rex Ryan talking about Travis. What are you laughing at now? God, that's Rex Ryan talking about Travis Frederick. And I'm going to tell you something. He's right. He's right. What?
I don't know. Would you want Kareem as your center on the football field?
I love this point.
They are missing their center, but this isn't Kareem Abdul-Jabbar here at center. You know what I mean? Like, he's a good football player, but come on, you still got 2 or 3 Pro Bowlers in that offensive line. Quit making excuses and get out.